Let's speak to the Work and Pension Secretary, Amber Rudd, now. Good morning to you.
Good morning, Julia.
Good morning. Well, but this has been in the news a little bit lately about people on universal credit being pushed into using food banks while there's long wait for cash, even when they are suffering from terminal illnesses like motor neurone disease. What are you going to do about it?
Well, what I'm focusing on today is particularly looking again to see how we can help people with the sort of diseases you've referred to. So people with either terminal illnesses or life-limiting illnesses. And I want to make sure that they get access to benefits as swiftly and as efficiently as possible. At the moment, the system works for most people, but not for all people. And there have been a number of charities and individuals who've come to see me who've got ideas how we can improve it. So I'm taking a no-holds-barred look at how it works at the moment to find ways that we can improve it.
Well, indeed, I mean, charities like the Marie Curie have been campaigning for the rules to be changed and saying that there's just too much bureaucracy involved in these special rules for terminal illness. And obviously, of course, you have to have some bureaucracy, as we've just been discussing with my guests in the studio. But it's clearly going too far. And it doesn't seem to be the case that the people who are giving out the benefits are trusting the word of doctors.
Well, I don't think that's correct. I mean, on the special rules, people typically, if they're not on some sort of benefits already, get their additional funds that they need when they've had this diagnosis within 6 days. So it's actually working well for a lot of people. And the doctors who give the diagnosis are a very important part of that. But they're also saying to us, some of the doctors, that they find it difficult. They find it difficult to say, yes, this 6-month amount is exactly how this person is going to spend the next few of their months of their lives. And we will need to look again about whether that is the right way to ask doctors to confirm a diagnosis. And actually, Marie Curie have pointed out that doctors need to be consulted more on this, and we need to find a way of giving them the confidence to make a decision. And it might not be around 6 months.
And how many people do you think are being affected by this every year?
Well, it's difficult to tell. I mean, we have over 2 million people on PIP. We have 2 million people on universal credit. There are sort of tens of thousands who need to go under special rules, and I want to make sure they all have a good experience.
Now, you've been talking, you had a visit to a charity, the Macmillan Cancer Support Horizon Centre in Brighton yesterday, and you've been talking about how it's actually your own personal experience that's motivated you to tackle this. What was that experience?
Well, I don't think anybody hasn't had a personal experience of some sort. And yes, my ex-husband, the father of my 2 children, had a devastating diagnosis 2.5 years ago now.
This is AA Gill?
Yes, that's right, AA Gill. And it was just a reminder to me that it's not just the physical diagnosis that impacts on the individual and their family, but everything around them. Their financial security, their access to food, and that was something that Macmillan Horizon Centre was showing me. They do cookery lessons for people. And all the elements around family security impact on everybody in that sort of community of a family when there's a diagnosis like that. And my responsibility in Work and Pensions is to make sure that people get the financial support that will help them after this diagnosis. And I was reminded of that when I saw it in my own family.
Now, of course, lots of people were saying, well, this is all well and good and good that you're tackling this. But they'll say, well, why haven't you tackled this before now? You've been in the job since last November, not admittedly a long time, but the charities only went public because, of course, they've been trying to raise these issues behind the scenes. Do we need to have front pages of, talking about people on, with terminal illnesses having to go to food banks before government ministers of any hue actually tackle an issue?
No, I think that's often a criticism when a government department comes up with a proposal to make changes. But the fact is, a department and a Secretary of State has to be confident about making the changes and responding to NGOs or charities or third parties lobbying them. And I'm responding to that because I think it is time to take a fresh look at it. If we all just sort of were entirely defensive about every criticism that comes to us, we would never make changes and get things done in the interest of people. So I think it's a confident and bold thing to do to say, let's take a total look at this. And I'm really pleased the way the department and everybody involved with this is responding, saying, yes, let's do that. It works, it's been effective, but how can we make it better? How can we make sure it doesn't just focus on one type of diagnosis, but really responds to individual lives? So we'll be going ahead on that basis.
OK, I must also ask you, of course, about the Tory leadership contest that's ongoing. I think we're in our 40th year, roughly, of it. It feels like that, I think, to most people. You, of course, are backing Jeremy Hunt in this battle. But it does look like Boris Johnson is the front runner in this, and there's been lots of talk about the possibility of no-deal Brexit. It became a massive big issue at the ITV TV debate on Tuesday night. Do you believe that if we don't get a good deal, whoever is in charge, your man or Boris Johnson, if we don't get a good deal by October 31st, that we should leave without a deal and have a no-deal Brexit?
Well, both candidates have said that no deal is part of the armoury in the negotiations going forward, and I have accepted that. The situation is that we are leaving by the end of October, but it would be so much better to get a deal. And there was lots of talk about what happens on October the 31st. Will Parliament stop it? Will John Major make some sort of judicial review? If Boris Johnson, if it were him, tries to prorogue, all these pieces could be moving around the board at that point. But what we really need is for everybody's effort to go into trying to get a deal. And that, as we know, isn't as straightforward as we would like it to be, because the Prime Minister has tried on several occasions to do that. It involves negotiations with the EU, and critically, it also involves negotiating within the Conservative Party, because there are different people with different views on that. So I'm backing Jeremy Hunt because I think he's the person to be able to get the best deal amended from the EU and be able to sell that in Parliament to people so that we can leave with a deal, which would be so much better.
If, as looks likely according to the polls, Boris Johnson does win, will you be willing to serve in his government? Do you think he'd want you?
Julia, I haven't gone that far with projecting what will happen. I remind you that on the day of the referendum, the odds were 90% on Remain winning. So Boris's camp should be aware that we are still in this fight. I still think that Jeremy can be the best Prime Minister. He's carrying on as Foreign Secretary while he's doing this campaign. And let me tell you, it looks like quite a busy time for a Foreign Secretary anyway. So I think that he is the one I'm going to continue to talk about and to promote.
Well, I must ask you about that because, of course, you're very much embroiled in that row with Donald Trump and our man in Washington, Sir Kim Darroch, who resigned yesterday. Undoubtedly on the Tuesday night and Tuesday during his tweets, Jeremy Hunt gave very fulsome support to Sir Kim Darroch. Boris Johnson accused of not doing so. Do you think that Boris Johnson is the reason why Sir Kim Darroch felt he had to fall on his sword? Is he to blame?
The real reason is because of the leaks. The devastating leaks were an absolute outrage to this government and to this country. And we have to get to the bottom of finding how that happened in order to make sure that all ambassadors and diplomats can have confidence in a system whereby they can speak frankly to government. So we must make sure that that is the real area we focus on. But yes, I do think that Jeremy Hunt's response was the right response, to stand up for our Foreign Service, to stand up for this country and to call it out as it was, which was wrong.